cell phone at the door. That is the new policy at Marietta Middle Schools.
The Board of Education approved a plan tonight to limit the use of smartphones and other devices in the classroom. Fox 5's Christopher King is live in Marietta tonight with reaction from parents. Christopher?
Russ, Courtney, no more smartphones in class. The school board says the new policy will reduce distractions, get students to concentrate, and give the classroom back to teachers.
We are totally for the idea of removing phones from classrooms.
Kayla Sargent has a child about to enter the 6th grade in Marietta, another about to enter the 8th. She says students need protection from smartphones.
Teachers need a distraction-free environment. Kids need a bullying-free environment.
All in favor? The Marietta Board of Education voted unanimously to limit the use of smart devices at Marietta 6th Grade Academy and Marietta Middle School.
Too much exposure to cell phones, social media is distracting.
The new policy will require students to put all cell phones and smartwatches in these yonder pouches at the start of the day. A magnetic system will lock the pouches and prevent students from accessing their devices until the end of the day.
Excellent idea.
Jeff Hubbard is the president of the Cobb County Association of Educators. He says too many students have become addicted to their smart devices and social media.
They are more interested in TikToks and Instagrams than they are paying attention during lessons.
School officials say the move will help minimize distractions and reduce the impact of social media and smart devices on students' brain development and emotional health. Hubbard says the new policy will improve learning and decrease disciplinary problems.
It's going to get back to just good old, as we say, back to school teaching, learning, listening, taking notes, asking questions, being engaged.
Now, the new policy will take effect on August 1st. We also talked with the school board chairman. Coming up at 11, why he says the new policy is a good idea. We're live in Marietta. Christopher King, Fox 5 News.
Well, it'll be fascinating to see how it plays
Parents,
out.
listen up. A cell phone ban during class time now coming to your child's school. The governor just signed that measure into law last week.
So this is going to take effect next school year. Tonight at 6, our Jenny Runovich shows us what will be allowed and what won't for students statewide.
Well, here in Mooresville, the district already banned cell phones for students during instructional time. Now their policy could be a roadmap for other districts across the state.
Like most teenagers, Rachel Harshman loves to stay connected.
Something big happens and the first notification you get is your cell phone. Like, that's just how we've grown up.
But she's also grown up with a policy in Mooresville where cell phones are banned during class time at school. Not in your pocket, not at your desk, unless it's needed for the lesson or an emergency.
Because if they can see it, you can see it, and you're more likely to get distracted. But more often than not, it's out of sight, out of mind, and your backpack is usually where we have it.
And there's a lot of stuff out there that shows even just having it in their pocket, feeling that vibration causes the anxiety level to go up, their heart rate increases, and then their attention span's shorter. It's harder to focus on what's being presented. So again, making sure that it's completely out of sight, out of mind, but available.
Mooresville's policy mirrors a new Indiana law that takes effect next school year. All public and charter schools have to ban communication devices like phones, tablets, laptops, and gaming devices during instructional time. There are exceptions if a teacher allows those devices for educational purposes, if they're needed for health reasons or in an emergency.
The biggest feedback that we get from parents is that they have access to that cell phone in case of an emergency.
Because if something were to happen, like speaking like personally, like my first text would be to my mom.
Statewide, each district will figure out its own policy and enforcement, like keeping phones in cubbies during class. For Rachel, it's worked.
I like staying in contact. I'm very social, but like there comes a fine line, and for that to be like a balance and a boundary, like I think that's important.
The new law hopes kids focus on learning, not their phones. In Mooresville, Jenny Runovich, 13
You've been
News.
in education now.
I've been in education 44 years.
44 years?
Yes, sir.
Has there been anything that you think has been more disruptive to learning and kids and behavior and mental health and social media?
No, I can't think of anything that has had a long-term effect than social media. And that really started with the iPhones, I'd say 2011, 2012, and it's just steadily seemed to get out of control.
Kurt Telford there is the principal at Charlotte Catholic High School, where at the start of this school year, he made a decision. They were going to ban the use of cell phones during school hours. No use between classes, no use during lunch. But the only exception is an emergency.
And it seemed if we're going to allow kids to use social media as part of the regular school day, we might be contributing to their poor health, their poor mental health. So we want to be a positive influence on kids, not a negative.
Tell me about the conversations you had leading into this and who were part of sort of the groups that had a say in how you were going to implement
Well,
this.
we didn't have a lot of conversations. We did with teachers and we did with administrators. We hinted to some parents this is where we were going. I think parents are all in favor. Kids, not so much, but again, although they are an important part of our community, we felt we had to make the decision and not put it to a vote or have students get their opinion on this. And I think if you talk to kids, most of them will say overall, it's been good.
We're going to hear from some of those students in just a moment, but we also wanted to hear from a teacher. Belinda Butler has been teaching English at Catholic for 10 years.
When you first heard they were going to ban cell phones here at the school, what did you think?
Well, I thought it was a good idea, but I also wondered, how is this going to go over with the kids? Right? I thought, how are you going to enforce that?
Yeah.
I had my doubts.
How did it go?
It's actually gone surprisingly well. I think for my part, I had a few students at the beginning that I had to confiscate their cell phones, but that's it. Just the first week. Everybody else has complied ever since. So,
what kind of change have we seen when it comes to kids, screen use, social media? What have you seen?
Everybody thought that cell phones and technology was going to allow, just sort of open the world to these kids and they were going to be just exploring and reading, et cetera, et cetera. Well, mainly it's used for social, like a youth culture thing, right? Social media is mostly how it's used, not so much for academic pursuits. So it's been a negative, I think, for all of us English teachers can agree with that.
Well, and doing what we're doing here, right? Talking face to face. Did you see a decline in the way kids would even interact with each other?
Definitely. Inability to express themselves, inability to clearly and precisely use language, because they're just not talking as much. And that's a big change that I've seen in this year now. You know, you walk through the cafeteria, kids are having conversations, they're discussing things, you know, healthy debates are going on, and before everyone was on a screen.
It is a noticeable, really visual difference, seeing people walking around with their heads up, no phone in their hand. So what do the kids think? Well, we sat down with 4 of them in the library, and you'll notice right there, not one phone on the table. Now, they'll tell you it was an adjustment. Some habits had to be broken.
What were some of the conversations like even in the hall that first day when they told you?
I mean, I remember everyone was very skeptical about it. I mean, it was definitely a hard change for some people, but I think as people started to get used to it, they were fine with it, and now it's like so easy.
Yeah. What's been the biggest adjustment to it?
I would say it's not going on your phone at break and not going on your phone at lunch, which again, I find it's so much less like distracting, and like, again, you can have these conversations with your friends and like, you're just more like, you're in a better mindset.
I would say the hardest thing was figuring out where you're meeting with friends during break, because in the past it's kind of like, oh, like I'll meet you in the library, I'll meet you in the cafeteria, and now it's like, okay, we have a designated spot, like we need to meet here.
We do worry about kids and mental health, and do you guys pay attention to those kinds of things? Because you do. You see reports like this, you see news articles all the time about kids and the stress, mental health. Is that something you worry about?
Mental health is a real issue, especially you know, big time in teenagers, and I think social media plays a huge part in that. You're kind of seeing what everybody else is doing, especially, you know, websites like Instagram and Snapchat. Nobody posts kind of the real parts of life. It's all about like kind of the good parts. We won a game Friday, like, you know, the ups of life, not really the day-to-day parts of life.
Yeah. Is there that fear of missing out, right? That you do that a lot, right?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like that is maybe one of the biggest factors for social media these days.
How stressful is that as a young person today?
I mean, it's pretty stressful because honestly, it's so easy to compare yourself. So I feel like social media definitely plays a factor in that. And I feel like even going back to the cell phone rule, like not being on your phone, it's less likely for me to like see that stuff, compare myself. So I can definitely say like my mental health and just like my overall general mood at school is definitely improved.
Tell me about the improved conversations that you're having with people.
I think all 4 of us can agree here. Like I enjoy talking to people and getting to know kind of the deeper parts of people, and like he's saying, like with social media, it's very surface level. It's very kind of what they do Friday, they play football, and it's nothing deeper than that.
I feel like we're just talking about like normal stuff, like day-to-day stuff, instead of like, oh, I saw this TikTok, or oh, I saw this, or did you see someone's Instagram post? So it's definitely more like meaningful conversation, and like honestly, like getting to know my friends on a deeper level that I'd never even experienced before.
Academically, do you think it's been helping?
Yeah, at least the students themselves are a lot more focused. I mean, I think, like you said, end of class, it's easy, especially in previous years, to pull out your phone, like, check what's going on. Now it's last 5 minutes you're using for homework, using for extra study time. Overall, just a better environment.
I mean, I would say just definitely more focused on school, gives you more time to prepare for the class. A lot like foreign language classes, like sometimes you have to, prepare like speaking Spanish or whether it's French.
I imagine you all have friends in other schools too, besides Charlotte Catholic.
Right.
What has been their reaction when you told them that we can't use our cell phones at all?
They're like, what? I was like, I mean, yeah, like I guess that was kind of my reaction when we first got sent the email, but I'm so thankful that we have that rule now.
I would say the biggest thing was like telling my grandparents or telling anybody that would reach out to me, because I would still get a text throughout the day, like I'm in school right now.
How you doing? This is Nathaniel Swopes at Swopes Center. Today I want to talk about schools versus cell phones. We have so many school districts canceling students having cell phones in the classroom. Some schools even not allowing students to even bring phones in school, or some schools saying, hey, during instruction time, put your phones away. And I've been teaching for going on 14 years, and the cell phone thing has been a big issue since I began teaching. I worked in CPS for 11 years before I worked in the Waukegan district for the past 3 years. And there was one school, elementary school, they would have the students turn in their cell phones and put it in a cubby. It was a very small elementary school. They put it in a cubby in the front office, and the kids could not use their cell phones throughout the school. In most of the public schools, you would tell kids to put the phone away, but they didn't collect the phone, because a lot of parents have issues with teachers or schools taking their phones because they feel that their kids need their phones in case of emergency or need to reach them. And I think you see the biggest problem with parents fighting back is public school. Private school, where parents have to pay to get their kid in, you kind of got to listen to those rules if you want your kid in that school. Of course, with charter schools. So in public school, we kind of see those huge issues. In some of the bigger cities, we see those huge issues with parents fighting back. Some of the smaller cities, and of course some of the privatized schools have more of a say-so, especially in the Catholic schools and things like that, where they're like, hey, you pay to come here, so if you want your cell phone or not, we're gonna, either we're gonna take it or you're just not gonna have it at all in our building. Now, for me as an educator, actually, I went over this in some of my master's classes and things like that about the cell phone policies and stuff. I actually don't agree with schools and the no cell phone policy. And that's not because as a teacher I'm on my phone a lot, but I actually do not agree with the cell phone policy and no phones. And the reason I don't agree is because with education, and we're getting into this new age where everything is on a smaller device and you can do so much on these devices, I think we should incorporate cell phones into our instruction. Now, one of the greater things that came about with COVID was Google Classroom, and Google Classroom has an app. Students could go to Google Classroom and do work online. Parents can access Google Classroom, check their students' homework and missing work online. And a lot of times, in my district, kids get computers, and they get to take them home. Now, when I was in CPS, kids did not get to take their computers home. They had to turn their computers in or keep them in their lockers. But in this district, in Waukegan, students are able to take their computers home. So if a student loses their computer or lose their charger and they're not able to use their computer in class, some of the students have been able to use their cell phones to do work in the classroom. They can log on to Google Classroom with their phone or to any other apps and do work from their phone. And I strongly believe that cell phones need to be incorporated into the instruction. Now, the whole thing about social media and students checking social media and things like that, yes, I would agree with that part. Like, you don't necessarily want students on social media doing instruction and doing school and making snaps and TikToks, but stuff like that. But the TikTok dances, I believe that could be incorporated into the physical education classes, because a lot of these dances, you got to move and you're exercising. And a lot of times we have so many kids that they don't want to play basketball, they don't want to play volleyball, they don't want to play soccer, they don't want to play hockey, but they love to dance. And I believe that the TikTok dances could be incorporated into the dance segment in physical education. And that's how cell phones can be incorporated, or social media can be incorporated into physical education. Now, with the classroom and instruction, I know we don't want them on social media and stuff like that, or snaps and stuff like that. And of course, one of the biggest issues with cell phones, of course, especially in public schools, I'm not sure about charter and private, but a lot of administrators they don't want kids recording fights. That's been the biggest number one issue. They may not say it, but they do not want kids recording fights. And then when they record these fights, they're uploaded and shared so fast. So how can you, as an administrator, say, hey, my school's not this, my school's not that, we're doing a great job, and then all parents or the board has to do is to Google your school or go to Instagram, and there's a page for fights, and you see so many fights from your school. Now, I think that's the biggest issue. Now, of course, we don't want that getting out and being done. We don't want videos of kids fighting. We don't want videos of kids getting hurt. We don't want videos of kids getting bullied and shared throughout social media. Cyberbullying is a huge thing. Now, if they want to take cell phones because of that issue, then I will have to agree. But as a strong point, I believe that students should have their cell phones in the classroom and in school, and I think we should find a way to incorporate it in instruction. We could probably save a lot of money. We can create more apps for students to use their phones to do work, to do different things, and it could probably save a lot of money, because now we have a lot of private schools. Each student has to buy a tablet. Each student has to buy a laptop, and it would save so much money if kids can just use their phone to complete a lot of work instead of purchasing a tablet or purchasing a computer. And then if they lose the tablet, they lose the computer, then they have to pay for it. So I think we definitely need to find a way how to incorporate cell phones in instruction. Of course, like I said, the fighting and the bullying and things that go on with the videos being shared rapidly and stuff like that, that's the struggle part with the cell phones. But overall, I think kids should have their cell phones in school. Please let me know what you all think. This is a very touchy subject in the education world. This is Nathaniel Swope signing out, and you all have a good one.